Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Inspirations TV. Today, I'm going to deviate a little bit from my normal structured format, and we're going to be in flow with Daisy Davis. Daisy is the owner of the Healing Arts Dojo in Westwood. She is also a hypnotherapist, a communications coach, yogi, healer, multi-hyphenate extraordinaire. So she's also a good friend of mine. She's helped get me deeper into my yoga practice, and we're starting to work together on a lot of different projects that we'll share later on another show. And I'll definitely be having her when I start doing my in-studio tapings, and that will be coming up hopefully within the next month or so. So welcome to the show, Daisy.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction.
You're very welcome. So today we're going to be discussing non-violent communication. So I've been working on my studies in neuro-linguistic programming, aka NLP. And so it's not dissimilar. It's just she's going to go into a little bit more specifics as to what nonviolent communication is, and then we'll from there. So why don't you take it away by explaining to everyone what nonviolent communication is?
Sure. First, I love how you brought up NLP. That all definitely ties into communication. And what I love about NLP is that goes into reprogramming the unconscious mind and kind of dealing with those self-limiting, self-sabotaging programs.
Mm-hmm.
Nonviolent communication or conscious communication deals with those programs like in the moment. Like it gives us tools so that we don't create any new self-limiting, self-sabotaging programs, so that we don't create any new discord in our relationships, so that we are able to, speak with skill and inspiration in the moment.
Yes.
And everyone, I think the number one complaint that I hear, the number one thing that people want help for is controlling that impulsive reaction and having a replacement for that. So NVC can definitely help with that too. It's interchangeable with conscious communication. So if you have to say conscious communication, compassionate communication, it's all the same thing. There's many different modalities, but what's great about NVC is NVC is a worldwide fellowship. So you can join a group. The group that I joined is actually in Minnesota, and my life coach and teacher and a woman who I really look up to. I found her on YouTube. She's a psychology communication dojo, and she does have a wonderful compassionate communication group. And I mean, we have people from all over the world. So there's tons of resources out there. It doesn't matter where you live. You can find these meetings. And what are they? Okay. So when you go to an NVC meeting, a lot of the groups will want to have you have some kind of foundation. So you can be a beginner, but you're going to want to learn Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication technique. You may want to do like some type of training like Human 101, just so you can get on the basics of it, because it really is a new language. It's a new language that is actually like a completely different way of looking at our relationships. It's a completely different approach to conversations, and it's just a whole paradigm shift.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what do you feel like, because every life coach has this personal story, even therapists have this story of like what really got inside of you, like what really inspired you to make this approach to changing how it is that you communicate?
Well, I happen to be in the process of going through, so the paradigm shift that we were just talking about is the shift from using domination and control into using partnership, collaboration, empathy, compassion, understanding, all of these beautiful, wonderful, conscious, which actually there's a conversational intelligence to it. Like all of these other conversational pieces are actually done with our prefrontal cortex. And then when we're like evaluating, when we're blaming, when we are criticizing, when we are looking through the frame of what is wrong, that is actually a whole different part of our brain. So it's a paradigm shift from the amygdala, the rear brain, which is the reactive, the fight or flight, the what is wrong in this situation, who is to blame, like what is right. And it also has a punitive nature to it. Like if there is such thing as a good or bad, then if you are bad, you need to be punished. And if you are good, you will be rewarded. So we include these old programs. We don't make enemy image or vilify our these parts of ourselves. You know, we're no longer shaming anyone in our world, including ourselves. So we include these old programs as we transcend into partnership. And the partnership is it's just a beautiful way of communicating. It's a language of connection. And just to tie it into, you asked how I got into communication, is being part of a domination structure, and we all learn this dialect. So if conscious communication is the new language, the old language is jackal. Okay. So jackal is slang for unconscious communication. Giraffe is slang for conscious communication. So I know you know that, but for everyone who doesn't know, the reason Marshall chose that is a jackal is just like this curious, bewildered creature kind of running around, like scavenging. Nothing against jackals, but a giraffe, on the other hand, has this long neck. They have the biggest heart of any mammal, of any land mammal. And they really stick their neck out for others. And then they've also got this wide view, like they can really see the big picture. So we want to be like giraffes. I decided I wanted to be like a giraffe because what happened was I was using domination. I had a lot of justifiable resentments, and going through this process, my children are actually in foster homes. So I'm working to get them back, social worker, whole thing. And it's been 2.5 years of that. And I had to learn a new way to communicate. Like I was using domination with these domination systems and was not working. So back in March last year, like I couldn't believe it when I found nonviolent communication. It was like this whole new language. And so I have been a student. I mean, you know, like I've been a very diligent student for almost a year now in these practices. And I'm actually writing a book called Conscious Communication. And as you know, it's the language of the laws of attraction. So the difference between Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication and conscious communication is it's more like visualizations instead of requests, and manifestations instead of like planning and all of that. Yes. So I hope I know I put a lot of stuff there.
No, that's fine. That's great. I love that because, you know, I think it's so important for people to understand, you know, when the way they're going about situations isn't really the most constructive. And I think that we have this perception that that is the only way to communicate, simply because everyone around us communicates the same exact way. So we don't even really think to question it so much anymore. And this teaching really is, like, from how you're explaining it, really gets us to open up our minds and say, you know, not to say that there's anything wrong per se with how we communicate, but there are different things that we can tweak here and there to really make sure that we are more in alignment with what it is that we choose to manifest versus, you know, and I love how you point out using domination to combat domination. And it's just like, you know, there's no resolution. You feel completely depleted afterwards. And you know, and my thing when I communicate with people, you know, even just like something like, I feel like, okay, this has been like a recurring issue and I want to change the trajectory of how we're going about this. Let's have a dialogue about it. And I've watched people as they sort of shut down, and because they don't know how to communicate in a way that is a dialogue of collaboration, like you say.
And a language of connection.
Yes.
Because you know what the most important piece to nonviolent communication is. The first step of anytime you're interacting. So if I'm upset and I come to you and I say, Nazra, you are so insensitive. All you do is care about yourself. Like, what am I needing right now?
You're needing sensitivity. You're needing empathy.
Empathy. Empathy. Yes, you got it. So you would say, wow, Daisy, like it sounds like something I've done has stimulated you, and I'm wanting more understanding. I'm wanting to connect. So you're getting empathetically in touch with what I'm feeling and needing, because behind everything that we say, if I say to you that you are so insensitive and you know, you never make any time for me, and I can give you your whole inventory, but you never hear criticism or demand when you have your giraffe ears on. You only hear feelings and needs. So then what we do is we use it as a language of translation. So someone unloads on you, then you can translate for them in giraffe, and you're giving them empathy, you're connecting with them, and you're also softening their message by giving them back exactly what they said in a different way. You know, so you could say to me, so Daisy, are you feeling frustrated because did you have a need for more connection? Did you have a need for more reliability from me? Right? And so
yes.
Because and what we normally want to do, like, what's the opposite of that? We want to defend.
Right.
We want to defend. If you send an insult my way, like, I want to send it back your way. Oh yeah, well, what about last week when you?
Right.
So it's a language of connection. It's a language of mediation, but in a really beautiful way, where we really get in touch with what's alive in each other.
Yes.
And it's beautiful for anyone who is standing around witnessing it. So you know that I've done a lot of this work in Venice Beach on the boardwalk, and I had my dojo there for several months. And, you know, I really got to see this communication language at work. And it was, I mean, it's amazing when you just get in touch with what people are feeling and needing, and you refrain from giving advice, talking about your own experience, trying to fix it. Like, these things are not empathy, and most of us do not know how to give empathy. We don't know how to listen deeply. We're sitting there waiting to say our part.
Right.
And we're not really taking in what the other person is saying. And this is the biggest part. We're not really curious about what is alive in the other person. And that's an important part about it. Really, really getting that bewilderment and curiosity, knowing that anything anyone is sending your way is always a projection, and anything that you're ever taking personally is always about you. So everything becomes your work. So whatever the person says about you is not really about you. Whatever you take personally is not really about them. They are the stimulus. You are the stimulus. And it really takes the psychology, the conversational intelligence. And then if you study, I know you study a lot of neuroscience, and you're really into Joe Dispenza. So you know a lot about the neuroscience of conversational intelligence, and also what happens to our body chemically when we have adrenaline and cortisol and these fear-based emotions coming in, like very disconnecting. You know, you end up with diseases and getting sick, and interpersonal relationships that you know, discord. So love is really the answer, and this is a language of love, and it's a shift from the language of fear, because the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear.
Yes. I love that you stress that, because I remember we were having a conversation about one of the therapists that I had seen a few years ago, and how we were kind of just talking about the constructs of like some family constructs that I was working through during that time to get kind of like a refresher course on like clarity of what it is that I wanted to bring into the conversation. And I said, and what was one of the things that the therapist said was that, well, what you're experiencing is either it's love or it's a call for love. And that's kind of like what you stress here of just that people are expressing a need. And if we just listen for the point of understanding instead of being reactive, oh, well, they said that I don't do anything for them, or they said that you know, like whatever it is, they're taking it as an attack instead of saying like, hey, I need this thing. I would really appreciate if you could meet that need. And instead of the person making, you know, going, oh, well, last week, like you said, you know, last week or last year, and you did this and that. It's not a tit for tat. It's really, if we take these situations and we say, okay, well, I thought because of this or that your need was this, you know, I think that helps kind of reframe that. So why not you give us the example? I really love the story you told me about when you were on Venice Beach and the woman that really wanted to be like really violent with you. Why not you give us that example? I think that was such a powerful example.
Yes. And I like how you talked about how conversations are more like hitting the ball back and forth. Like, well, you did this, well, you did this. And the way that we stop that is when the ball comes back your way, you catch it, and then you get the person in touch with their feelings and needs.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I did in Venice with the woman. So
right.
she was really having a need for me to know. So I have my dojo, and there's unhoused and housed, and we're helping everyone. It's like this walk-in yoga studio, like anyone can get life coaching, and I was doing my energy work.
Yeah.
So I'm there teaching communication, and just, you know, just like any classroom, we have this gentleman, Gabriel, who's being he's there almost every day, and he's being a little disruptive. So I asked him to leave, and I put my hand on him. And when she saw that, she was having a need for me to know like how important it was for that I don't touch Gabriel again, or she was going to beat me up. And she didn't say it that nice.
Yeah.
You know, it was the way she was saying it was a lot of cuss words, giving me my inventory. And she had also been coming to the dojo a lot. So I'm literally like reading one of Marshall Rosenberg's books, Teaching Communication. And I'm like, well, I get to apply it again, you know, and it wasn't the first time that I was threatened with violence, or I actually had another woman in another incident who was about to hit me with, so she was like stealing someone's stuff, like people have their tents and stuff out.
Right.
So I stepped on the tent she was stealing, and she fell, and then she came like to attack me. And I went into this, like, I didn't use any words at that point, but I went into this energetic, like, I love you, like, it's okay. And I was about to hug her. And then she, like, the attack stopped, and she just walked away, like, didn't even approach me. So there was a lot of things. But the woman who was really upset, that was like cussing me out, I just repeated back to her everything she was saying to make sure I got it right. Like, so you're wanting me to know that if I put my hand on Gabriel again, that you're going to beat me up. Is that right? And this is really important to you. And yes. And if and you racist bitch. And I'm like, okay, so I can see how important this is to you. And, you know, when you see me touch Gabriel, like, you're wanting me to know that racism isn't okay. And that just because I'm a woman and he's a black man, I can't touch him. And, you know, she was very upset. And then all of a sudden there started to shift. Because when you get people in touch with their own feelings and needs, like, wow, you're really upset about this. Like, this is really important to you. Something really beautiful happens, because then at that point she started to reveal a trauma to me, and she actually was transgender. And started talking about all the violence she had to face out there and how awful it was. And it was like, you know, and then she started yelling at me again. But it's like, when you give people empathy, it gives them a place where they can feel seen. And when people feel seen and understood, then they start to feel more safe to open up. Yeah. They start to feel more like they can be vulnerable. And this woman ended up staying like the rest of the day and coming back the next days. And yeah, like we really didn't turn anyone away. Like I've told you a bunch of the success stories there. And I was a baby giraffe at that point. So it was like the communication dojo. I got to have all this great practice.
Yeah.
You know, really unexpected, like difficult situations that I was able to transmute and to treasure. Like, you know, it could have been really traumatic situations. And we can do that in our lives with any situation. Like anytime someone is upset, and we're upset too. Yeah. So in the language of nonviolent communication, we're only revealing ourselves, or we're empathetically like curious about the other person. So even in the situation where I'm feeling like, you know, a little bit frazzled, or I feel my nervous system kicking in, like I can check in with myself and be like, wow, like I just felt like this, like emptiness in my stomach. Like I can feel the blood going through my legs. And do you mind, like, I don't know if this conversation is going to be at my capacity. I'm worried I'll say something that I'm going to regret. Like, do you think we could stay really mindful in this moment and just kind of talk about feelings and needs, or should we take a break? Like it puts you in a place where you have that pause that, like we were talking about in the beginning of the call. You have that pause that everyone wants. Yes. Like everyone wants to be able to stop themselves so they don't have that knee-jerk reactivity. And then, you know, of course we know what happens from there. We just escalate. And, you know, we at least want one of the people, if both of the people have the skills, then great. But only one person has to have these skills for nonviolent communication to work.
Yeah. I love that you stress that, because I think a lot of people are sometimes waiting for the other person to do it. Well, they don't know how to do it, so I'm not going to do it. And then that's where they go back into that, I guess that just like that default form of communication where they're just going, well, okay, well, they're going to dominate, so I'm going to dominate, or, you know, they're going to yell, so I'm going to yell. And I've definitely been in, you know, relationships like that where it was so frustrating, and that's not what I wanted. Like I always started out like very calm and cool, and, you know, by like the third or fourth escalation on their end, I was just like, then I'm out yelling them, and I'm out cussing them out, and it just, and no one really won. Like in the moment, like it feels that way. It feels like
it's disconnecting. Yeah, it's disconnecting. It creates discord. It doesn't solve any problems. So nonviolent communication. I happen to just have two of his books right here. Okay. So these are the components. So there's, I'll just read them, like observations, feelings, needs, and requests. Yeah. So it's super simple. Observations, feelings, needs, requests. So anytime you're in an argument, but what comes first always? Empathy, right? Yes. Empathy always first. So we always want to connect first. Connection before correction. Right. Empathy before education. So we can just go into our observations, feelings, and needs. So most of us are used to speaking with evaluation. Like, yes. So it could be like, wow, Nazra, every time you come here, you're late. Right. Yeah. So that's the old way. Yeah. So instead, I'm going to look at my like observations, feelings, needs, requests. So instead I could say, hey, hi, Nazra, like I noticed that you arrived 20 minutes late. Yeah. And it reminds me of 2 other times that you also arrived late. Okay. Right. So see how when I say that, it's like, yeah, I did arrive 20 minutes late, and I was late these other times. It's not, Nazra, you're always late. Like that's an evaluation. So we want to get rid of that and do observations.
Okay.
And then feelings, we're used to like putting everything outside of ourselves. So if I feel a certain way, it's because you are frustrating me.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, we're not really in touch with our feelings. It's like,
yeah,
a feeling would be like, wow, Nazra, like when I see you arrive 20 minutes late, I feel a little bit uneasy. I feel, you know, my need for, I'm trying to think of the word, my need for predictability is not being met. Right. So then it's all about me. We always want to keep everything in our lane. And then Marshall Rosenberg has requests, but you know that I like to yogify it. So instead of requests, I like to offer visions. So conscious communication is a little different than compassionate. So conscious communication would be like, I have a vision. You know, I noticed you arrived late today, and I remember 2 other times that you arrived late. My vision is like us being here maybe a little bit early before the time that we set, and having like a lot of like, you know, freedom to flow and do whatever we want with plenty of time. See, so I'm offering a vision. It's the thing I like about visions more than requests is if I make a request, Nazra, do you think that you could please show up at the time that we agreed on? Is it possible for you? Then it's like, well, let me go back here in my amygdala because now I'm feeling judged. And then let me go in my temporal lobe to like check my schedule and make sure that I plan enough time. And it's like, we want to stay in consciousness. We want to stay in creativity. And that's like the prefrontal cortex of our brain.
Yes.
And if you look at the neuroscience of conversation, like the seat of our consciousness, like when we're up here, we have access to everything else. We have access to our brain. Like I like to call the amygdala the dojo.
Okay.
So you have access to the dojo, but it's not hijacking you.
Right. Can you explain to people what the dojo is? Because I know it's like a new term for me, so I just want to make sure people are aware of what it is.
Yes. So dojo, the translation of dojo means a place of the way. So it is where we practice the way, and the way would be like any form of consciousness, whether it's conscious communication, conscious movement. I look at like practicing the way as like pretty much all of the healing arts, because isn't it the way to like sing mantras and auto tune our biofield, and really practicing the way is learning how to operate your avatar, learning how to operate and live harmoniously with your mind, body, and spirit, because we are not our avatar. We're not our body. We have a body. We are also not our mind. We have a mind, but the mind is the unconscious program, and the consciousness is the intelligence that writes the program. And that's why we have NLP to reprogram ourselves and and what's really important, and also Marshall Rosenberg talks about this, like we are our own parents. We must learn that we are the mother, we are the father we have been waiting for. So when we become these conscious giraffes, like we don't make anyone else responsible for meeting our needs. And it's beautiful. Like I smile just thinking about that. Like no one else is responsible for meeting my needs. So that gets rid of expectations, that gets rid of obligations. And live in a world, and there's a paradigm shift because needs are still getting met. It does not mean that we are not living with our needs getting met. It means that we are living in collaboration instead of control. I'm not forcing you, shaming you, putting expectations on you to meet my needs. You are meeting my needs because it meets your needs to meet my needs, and it brings you joy. And you wouldn't do it if it didn't bring you joy and pleasure and or somehow meet your needs. Maybe it's not joy and pleasure. Maybe you have a need for purpose or service, or you know, and then when we move into these domination systems, like I had a big problem because I felt like my choices were submit or rebel. you guys have my kids, they're in foster homes. Either I submit,
Yeah.
well, my kids are being strangled, or I rebel. And I'm like, I don't like this. So with this new paradigm shift,
Right.
I'm still doing everything that these systems and programs are asking me to do, but it's coming from a different energy. It's coming from an energy of purpose, an energy of like meeting my own needs because I want to, because it's play, because I'm here to enjoy it and make the best of it. And that's really the shift, because we do all of us have things that we would like to not do that we have to do.
Right.
Yes. So, and those, and then that's like a whole nother call with you where we can talk about moving meditations and making washing dishes really fun. And so
I think a lot of people would like that.
Yes, I actually wash my dishes by hand, and it's one of my moving meditations now, because that was one of the things I didn't like doing. So now I like washing dishes, cleaning.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. I like that. I like that we're both into that, like really that reframing thing. And I appreciate that you even make sure that you clarify to people that while we're not putting on someone else to meet our needs are still being met. Because I think that, you know, the ego will hear that and go like, well, I deserve to have my needs be met. Well, yes, no one's saying that you don't deserve to have your needs be met. There's just a way, like if the way you're going about it isn't working, try a different way. And I think I mentioned this before of that, you know, sometimes we can get people to do what we want them to do, but we can't make them care. And we can't make them be, we can't make them understand per se. Like we can do our part to articulate ourselves in a way that we are communicating what our feelings are and, you know, what that need is and what it is that we can possibly reframe for ourselves. But, you know, I think a lot of times people just get, like you say, like up into those domination systems of saying, well, I need to, you know, I need this person to whatever it is, be on time, not yell or what have you. And I think there's a way to do that and to communicate that, but by force is not the most. It's not efficient, because if you have to force every single time, then obviously you're not making them care, and obviously you're not making them get it. So the thing is collaboration. And so I really appreciate that you clarify that for people.
Well, and how often do we enter into a relationship with someone and we want to change them?
Yeah.
We want them to meet our needs. So I think it does so many things for us, because it's going to change the way that we look for relationships.
Yes.
And another thing that you made me think about when you were saying like when you're trying to control people and the energy, how it causes so much resistance and we have to use so much more of our energy and it's really disconnecting. Like, how often, I know for me at least, and I'm sure that everyone can probably identify with this, like how often have we had unmet needs because we were waiting for someone else to meet those needs? Like a need for me, a big one is touch. Like I love touch. I love to be touched. It's my love language. And I've always been like, oh, I need someone to touch me. And you always see myself give myself hugs and do self-massage. And we, like, our avatars need love. Our avatars need touch. Like we have all of these needs, but if we can separate ourselves from our avatar, like you are not your body, you have your body, and your relationship with your body, with your mind, yourself is a separate relationship. Just like you have a relationship with your friends and your family, and your relationship with yourself, like think of it like a whole separate person. And you and practice like, oh, I have an unmet need for touch. Like COVID right now, we can't even go near each other. Like, what stops you from just giving yourself love? Like, wow, I really love you. And I just feel this urge to tell you, like, you know, I do it. You see me do it on my yoga mat. Well, I do. Or in yoga, like just to practice that on ourselves. And then what happens is our capacity to love ourselves is going to be the exact amount of love that we're able to let in.
Yes.
No one can ever love you. People can only love you as much as you love yourself.
Right. Yeah.
So that terrible, like, Tom Cruise movie where Jerry Maguire, where he's like, you complete me. Get that out of your head.
Yes.
You are full and whole and complete. Like, you are wonderful and amazing. And you are never alone if you truly love yourself. You are never alone if you truly love yourself. So we want to radiate and be these like whole and beings on our way to enlightenment, and like have spiritual partnerships with each other, where we're checking in, like, where are you at on your awakening today? Like, where we can actually practice these things with. And it's not always going to be our family, but you definitely want to get, because otherwise you learn this stuff. If you don't practice it, you're not going to get it.
Let me see that one. Let's make sure people see this.
Yeah, so this one is getting past the pain between us. So that's like, isn't that a great one? And then this one is raising children compassionately.
I love that.
Then his audiobooks are available on YouTube for free. Like, just like, yeah, I mean, YouTube for me is like a school.
It's a library. It's like the modern day library, isn't it? I love it.
Yes, a lot of my learning is done on YouTube. So highly, highly encourage. Marshall Rosenberg's workshops are on there, so you can watch him live on his workshops. And you know, even my communication coach too, Yvette, is on there. Yvette Erasmus, and she has an amazing workshop on there too. So but we having these practice groups, because it is a new language, like reflecting back, not just, and even with, you don't want to do it with just your difficult conversations. Like, you'll notice sometimes on the phone with you, I'll kind of reflect back, like, oh, so I hear that, you know, your needs for productivity and self-care have been met, and that you're really feeling elevated, right?
Yes.
Is there yeah, that's right, Daisy. And now that you mention it, I also feel like it gets people a chance to get in touch with deeper layers of themselves.
Yeah.
And then just witnessing it, not taking the other person's stuff on. And that's why we learn how to practice giving empathy, because when you give empathy, there's an energy behind it that you can be present for other people's pain, and it's beautiful. It's not like where we used to get really uncomfortable around other people.
I definitely know what you mean by that. I mean, I remember like my Gammer, God bless her soul, she just, if she saw me cry, like her instinct was just like, don't cry. And I get what she's actually saying. What she's saying is, it makes me really sad and uncomfortable to see you in a state of pain, but that's actually not something constructive that you want to tell people, because what you're telling people is to not acknowledge how they feel and not honor that feeling and let it pass, you know? So it's good to like not encourage people to stay stuck there, get stuck in that.
She's not truly witnessing you, which is what empathy is. Yeah. Empathy is just about witnessing, feeling, getting in touch with what the other person feels and being present.
Yeah.
Not being sorry. We talked about sorry. Sorry is that's like a whole phone call.
That's a whole other,
Yeah, in NVC, there is no such thing as sorry. There is, you know, I really wish that I would have been there at the time that you said. My vision is leaving a little earlier and hopefully getting there earlier. That's my vision.
Yeah.
So notice I didn't say sorry, but I'm reflecting back. I'm offering a vision. And I don't know if you've heard when I love Human 101. We'll do like a whole Human 101 call, but there's something called insight and foresight. So with instead of saying sorry, you can always offer insight and foresight. So hindsight, insight, foresight. So hindsight is like, oh, I can look back and I can kind of like see what I did and reframe what I would have liked to do. So you go through with have hindsight,
Yeah.
wow, like I wish I would have done that. And then that's the positive reframe we talk about. And there's actually self-hypnosis where you can literally change the connections in your brain to do this with NLP. Like
Right.
you can even do this with reparenting. Like, you know how it's good to do it with a therapist, but if you're skilled, you can do it on your own, where you take yourself through meditation. And maybe there's a situation where in your past, when you were a child, your mother or father was not available to show up for you. And maybe they, you know, said or did something very traumatizing. You can actually reframe it in meditation for them to give you the caring, compassionate response that you wanted. Or my favorite, you can also just kind of reparent yourself in that situation and take your little child self and just hug them, love them. Like I love on my kids. Like I can love on my little girl too. She's not gone.
Yeah.
She's still in there. All of us have our child in there, and our child will let us know when it's time to look at our child, because that's where a lot of our trauma comes from.
Yeah.
Whenever you get those triggers, it's from that. So, but yeah, so no sorry. It's hindsight, like what could I have done differently? Insight, like in this moment, like this is how I want to show up. Foresight, like, oh, this is how I see myself showing up in the future.
Yeah.
And it's not, because what is sorry? Sorry is like, if you feel sorry, that's like, whoa, like, no, if you're sorry, then that means that someone has to forgive you. And it's like this whole energetic, like, what if they don't forgive you? And then you need forgiveness. Like, throw that out the door, right? How many people have we been waiting to forgive us or say sorry to us?
Or apologize.
Or apologize. Yeah, just get it out of your head. Like, get rid of those concepts. Get rid of expectations. It's time for all of us to shift into higher consciousness. We are in the age of information.
Yeah.
We're leaving the industry, and shadow work is fun. So here we are.
I love it. That's so beautiful. Yeah, I can't wait to do some more future episodes with you. It's going to be really cool. We're going to go into a lot of stuff, like a lot of stuff. And I'm just really excited.
Normal conversation for us, I feel like.
It is. Like, we're actually just getting it on tape this time, but like literally this is the kind of stuff we talk about all the time.
Yeah, I feel like I'm just having my morning call with you.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love it. And I'm so glad to like be able to share you and your information and your teachings like with my community. And I know we'll be combining our communities at some point, and we're already kind of starting to do that. So I know that you don't have your website up just yet. So I know that's on the way. So I'll just, keep my people informed, my community informed of when you have that up, and make sure that they know how to get in touch with you. So, because normally that's what I ask people before I ask my final question. So, just if you guys want to reach out to Daisy, if you want to get in touch with her for any of her healing or hypnotherapy or conscious communications coaching, definitely reach out to me and I can get you in touch with her. I don't want to like broadcast it everywhere because I don't want you getting spammed. So, but for my last question, Daisy, what keeps you inspired?
What keeps me inspired is shifts in consciousness. Every time I feel a shift, like, wow, I've transcended this behavior, I've transcended this, or this, like, that's what keeps me inspired. Just seeing the results. Yeah,
I love that, because that is really what it's all about. It's all about evolving and growing. We're never done. We just get to higher and higher levels of consciousness, but we're never done.
We're never done. This is a practice. So
yeah, it's definitely
like you don't learn how to do yoga, and you don't learn how to do yoga and then stop. Like, your body's going to get stiff again. So you don't learn compassion and consciousness and then stop, because you're going to become unconscious again.
Right.
At least the current vibration that we're in. But Nazra, you and I are here to raise collective consciousness, and as soon as we get off this call, I can talk to you about my business, A Call for Love, that ties in non-violent communication with people who need help.
I love it. I can't wait. I'm so excited. So thank you for joining this show today. And we'll definitely be having you back very soon, I'm sure. So,
okay.
Yeah. So guys, again, I will be keeping you guys posted on when the Healing Dojo website is up and running. But in the meantime, Daisy is still available for sessions. So feel free to DM me if you would like me to get you in touch with her. I can definitely make that happen for you. So guys, as always, until next time, stay inspired.
Stay inspired.